Next, I should like to talk with you about Patsy. Now, I have mentioned Rose Williams, and I usually like to think of her in the context of the shame of Rose Williams. I'd like to talk with you about the agony of Patsy. Now, Patsy is a young woman, young girl. When she was small, she was quite taken. The wife of Edwin Epps, who was her owner, was quite taken by Patsy. And as Stamp would say in that kind of context, treated her like, sort of fawning lapdog. But as Patsy grew into this very attractive woman, Epps's wife became quite jealous of her, as Epps saw Patsy as his province in terms of sexual activity. Now, Patsy was a remarkable picker of cotton. Solomon Northup, who was a freeman in Saratoga Springs, New York, was kidnapped in 1841 and sold off into slavery and ended in Louisiana. He gives an account, of course, of Patsy because they were both slaves of Edwin Epps. But as Patsy grew, and in spite of the fact that she was an absolutely remarkable cotton picker, according to Epps, she was by far the best cotton picker, male or female, on the plantation. It was nonetheless the case that Patsy would be brutalized continually by Epps, largely because of proxims of jealousy that Patsy might be having sex with someone else. It got so bad that Patsy, if we are to believe Northup, once asked him to kill her and bury her in the swamps so that her body would never ever be found. Well, anyway, this particular story which I want to call your attention to is that this particular day, Patsy went to an adjoining plantation to get some soap from a Mrs. Shaw. Interestingly, Shaw was a white plantation owner. He had a black wife, Harriet. But because Edwin Epps' wife so hated Patsy, for example, she wouldn't give her soap to wash. So she went over to this adjoining plantation to get some soap to wash. Epps saw her coming from the adjoining plantation and thought that she had gone to there to have sex with Shaw. And what I should like to do then is just simply to read to you some short paragraphs in relation to what happens to Patsy. So Shaw sees Patsy coming. He swears at her, saying, I know what you went over there to do. And Patsy says, Mrs., don't give me no soap to wash with. And she does as she does the rest. And you know why. I went over to Harriet's to get a piece. And Epps shouts, you lie, you black wench. And she says, I don't lie, massa. If you kill me, I'll stick with that. Oh, I'll fetch you down. I'll learn you to go to Shaw's. I'll take the starch out of you. Well, what he does is to have Patsy stripped naked, spread out on the ground, with hands in front of her tied to the ground, feet tied to the ground. And he gives the whip to Northup, who now has the slave name Platt. And so what I'd like to do is to simply read you a couple of paragraphs here. Epps was yet furious and savage as ever, demanding that if she goes to Shaw again, he would, of course, he would basically kill her. Then he ordered me to start flogging her. And Epps gives her about 30 strokes, trying to, ease the strokes as they came down. And Epps says to him, hit her and hit her harder. And then he He seized the whip himself and applied it with tenfold the force that I had. And now you see the real agony of Patsy, the painful cries and shrieks of the tortured Patsy, mingling with the loud and angry curses of Epps loaded the ear. She was terribly lacerated, I may say without exaggeration, literally flayed. The lash was wet with blood which flowed down her sides and dropped to the ground. At length she ceased struggling. Her head sank listlessly on the ground. Her screams and supplications gradually decreased and died away into a low moan. She no longer writhed and shrank beneath the lash. When it bit out small pieces of her flesh, I thought she was going to die. The agony of Patsy is but an instantiation of the agony of so many, symbolized in the personhood of Patsy.